Bellator 226, Ryan Bader versus Cheick Kongo is on. Okay, the heavyweight belt is on the line. Alright, this is a great fight. This interests me. Bellator has some good cards coming up. You got the Lima versus McDonald 2 fight coming up. I like this fight. The best thing about Bellator is when you actually have talent going on. You know, when you see Fedor coming back and it's like, oh, he really would never hang with anyone in the UFC right now. Let's be real. You know what I'm saying? Let's be real. He's a bit small for heavyweight as well. UFC guys would eat him up in the rankings. Okay? Easily. But when you see Ryan Bader and he's headlining a bill, I mean, this is a guy where he could hang with the competition in the UFC. I mean, you look at his record. I was just looking at it now. I mean, before he left, he beat Ilir Latifi, Big Nog, Phil Davis, Linton Vassell, Mohamed Lawal. That's in Bellator, never mind. He beat Ilir Latifi and Big Nog back-to-back by finish. TKO. Both of them. KO'd Ilir Latifi with a knee. He can hang. He can hang, but he chose to go otherwise. He chose to go to Bellator because, in my opinion, not because he was having a tough time with competition. I feel like he just went there because, hey, money's better than a belt. Who cares if it's the UFC belt or the Bellator belt? A lot of worldwide MMA rankings, where they don't just look at the UFC, they look at every organisation, has Ryan Bader as the second best light heavyweight in the world. You know what I'm saying? Or the third best. The second best as in John Jones is the champion of the world. DC's under him. And then Ryan Bader's just below that. A lot of people have him there. Okay? I think he is there. I think he's definitely in the top 5 conversation for sure. Maybe even top 3. You know what I'm saying? I think he's an absolute savage. And if he came back to the UFC, he'd do damage. But right now we're talking about Cheick Kongo versus him. I think he's going to deal with Cheick Kongo, man. I really do. I think he's going to absolutely deal with him. I think Cheick Kongo's bigger. He's stronger. No, I don't even think he's stronger, if I'm honest with you. I think Cheick Kongo is a guy where you look at him and you go, I'm going to get anally raped here. Okay? Then you go, hang on a second. He actually fights like a bit of a bitch. You know what I'm saying? And you sort of feel okay about it. And I feel like Ryan Bader's going to KO him. I mean, especially Cheick Kongo's recent style with trying to take guys down. Good luck trying to take Ryan Bader down. Okay? That ain't going to work. That is not going to work. Your best chance against Ryan Bader is to land some vicious shot in the first round and KO him stiff. And Cheick Kongo's chin, I mean, if Pat Barry is sending you stumbling all over the octagon about 5 fucking years ago, 10 years ago, whenever the fuck it was, Ryan Bader's going to do you in now way worse. I think Ryan Bader gets this out of there in the first round by KO. I wouldn't be surprised if he made a call out to someone in the UFC. I would love to see a cross promotion like that. And even if it isn't with both belts on the line, but the UFC just temporarily sign him for a 1-fight deal. To me, Jan Blachowicz versus John Jones looks like the next fight they're going to make for John Jones, because he won't go against Miocic unless he's getting paid millions, which won't happen because UFC don't pay their fighters shit. Okay? So John Jones is looking like his next opponent's going to be Jan Blachowicz. I don't know about you guys. I would much rather see Ryan Bader versus John Jones than Jan Blachowicz versus John Jones. That means way more to me. Way more to me. Okay? The Bellator champ comes over, vacates his belt for a 1-fight only deal in the UFC. And hey, if I'm Scott Coker, there's nothing to lose there. So what? You lose your champion for about 6 months. Okay? Make an interim belt. Deal with. So what? You lose your champion for about 6 months. Bellator is already considered worse than the UFC. If you go over to the UFC with Ryan Bader sold as the Bellator champion, but he doesn't have the Bellator belt on him, so it's not a cross promotion, they just sign him for a 1-fight deal to get some hype behind a Jones fight again. Bellator is already considered the B level to the UFC. And if Ryan Bader loses and makes it competitive, Bellator will still be considered the B level of the UFC. There's no gain, there's no loss there. If Ryan Bader comes in and somehow KO's Jones, who's been looking very beatable recently by one-legged fighters, it's only a win for Bellator. A huge win for Bellator. Then you take him back and say, hey, we'll pay you this much now. Fuck the UFC belt. Come back. You need Bellator. And all of a sudden, Bellator looks like it's the real deal. Because there's a few guys at Bellator that could definitely hang in the divisions in the UFC. Straight off the bat, I'm thinking Ryan Bader. I'm thinking not Rafael Lovato Jr. because there's USADA in the UFC and he's on the juice. So that would never work. But I'm thinking Ryan Bader. I'm thinking Douglas Lima would definitely be top 5 in welterweight in the UFC for sure, in my opinion. I think he'd have trouble with some of those bigger wrestlers like Colby and Usman, but I mean, you put him against Leon Edwards, that's a fight. That's a scrap. Against Masvidal, that's a scrap. You know what I'm saying? Then you've got the Pitbull. Patricky, what's his fucking name? Patricky Pitbull. I think he's a champion. I might be confusing him with his brother. He could hang in those divisions as well. I mean, I think you've got Bellator's really coming out right now. I like this fight. Ryan Bader versus Cheick Kongo. Listen, if your opportunity is to try and take Ryan Bader down and you've got a suspect chin, not going to work against Bader. He's going to come out there. I think it's going to be a gritty first round. Maybe back and forth a little bit. Cheick Kongo maybe pushes him to the cage. Ryan Bader's going to shake him off. Land big pieces. Big free pieces against the cage. Put Cheick Kongo out of there in the first round. And then make a call out to Jon Jones. Fingers crossed. It would save us from having to sit through Jan Blachowicz versus Jones press conferences. Because all it would be is, and the Lord said, hit that pregnant woman, and the Lord said, slap that stripper's ass, and the Lord also told me, because I'm such a Christian, this is Jon Jones, by the way, snort that cocaine, my son, Jones, snort that cocaine, John, and I'm just being a good Christian here, you know what I'm saying? That's all it is from Jon Jones every time we see him fucking fight. Then it will turn over to fucking, hey, and what do you have to say about that, Jan Blachowicz? Oh, Polish power. You have Polish power. Jon Jones never seen Polish power. And that'll be it for the entire fucking press conference. No one gives a fuck. I'd much rather see Ryan Bader versus Jon Jones. Make it happen, Dana. Make it happen, Scott Coker. Let's have some fun. And Scott Coker's surname has Coke in it. So it's almost like a done deal for him and Jones to work together on something. You know what I'm saying? See you later. Click that button there. Goodbye. Bader by first round KO.